Hey, what's going on, peeps? This Ashton Clips back with another YouTube video. First one in a century, millennium, forever. Yeah, light year. No. Um, yeah, I took a little hiatus from doing videos for personal reasons. Actually took a vacation from work for a little while and was unfortunately dealing with some minor health issues. But I am back in the saddle doing videos again. Um, I'm not gonna stick to a given schedule because obviously that fell through. So mostly I'm just gonna be doing videos when I feel like doing them, pretty much, and I'll go from there. So the topic of today's video is going to be some recent, well, somewhat recent Wolcen news. And I'm going to be starting out with this little bit of news first. So, firstly, if you guys don't follow Wolcen, the development team on Trello, they post all of their updates as far as game development goes for the beta and final release of the game on there. I did go on there and I couldn't really figure it out because it is a little bit confusing. So to keep up with Wolcen, I just um, keep in touch with their Twitter and their YouTube, and I'm also on their Discord too. So if you guys wanted to join their Discord, they do have one. Um, I'll actually see if I can get an invite, and if I can, then I'll just leave an invite link in the description. So, the potions revamp. Along with the other revamp plans for the beta slash final game, we have come with another system for potions to fit with our difficulty objective and the choice requirements we want in Wolcen's gameplay. Also, before I go any further, since I didn't mention it, also leave a link to Wolcen's Twitter and YouTube in the description, as well as the link to their actual website, even though you can see it right up here, but, um, you know, right here. I'll still leave a link to that for you guys as well. Anyway, we wish to avoid the piano effect due to the absence of common cooldown between potions of the same type, and mostly we want players to make choices for their potions instead of being able to have everything they need in 5 slots. Finally, it will also be more easy for game control management to have fewer potion slots. Therefore, potion slots will be reduced from 5 to 2 and will work with charges. Overall, I feel like this is a smart decision on the development team's standpoint. Mainly because when I was playing in alpha, I would have like 1 healing potion and like 4 offensive potions, which was like super broken because I had a potion that could freeze, I had a potion that could cause bleeding and fire damage, I believe, and then um, one other one, and it was just ridiculous because you could like stack, like, just with my potions I could stack like 3 to 4 different effects on a monster just by using potions. So um, as far as like balancing goes, I think this is a really smart move on their part. uh, do, Using a potion consumes charges, and you will be able to refill them by killing foes. Each enemy type will grant you a certain amount of charges based on the creature difficulty. Potions won't have any cooldown anymore. There will be 3 types of potions: health, willpower, and rage. So they're actually completely doing away with the offensive potions that they had in the alpha, which, like I said, is a good idea on their part, because yeah, it was like super broken. Um, Potions will also have levels of rarity that will improve their efficiency, duration, or the number of charges, and eventually grant other bonuses. So I have a feeling with potions, once you get a certain length through the game, you have a potential of actually getting upgraded rarity potions, which would give you these other bonuses and stuff, which would actually be pretty cool as long as the bonuses don't like unbalance the game. Which unfortunately, there's always a opportunity to do so when it comes to this type of game. Is there's always um, there's always a chance of unbalanced shenanigans happening, basically. So armors, blocking, force field, and life leech survive in Wolcen. Presently, a player in Wolcen doesn't really have a choice regarding the way he wants his character to survive in the game. Basically, it's based on health, armor, and a bit of blocking when you have a shield. We want to extend players' possibilities when it comes to character survival and resistance, so gathered and came with a final answer to the question, what choice can you make to survive in Wolcen? Armor types. We have 4 armors with archetypes: predisposition, mage, rogue, warrior, and tank. For character defense, every piece of these armors will grant you 2 implicit affixes, 1 major and 1 minor. You can improve the values of all resistance, health, and force shield. Alrighty, interesting. So I believe the route they're taking with the armor types and the affixes is they're wanting to differentiate the survivability of the game from you just pouring stat points into, say, health or defense or things of that nature, basically. So I think this is also a good move on their part, just to kind of give a little bit more exposure to the armor types per se, make them a little bit more relevant as far as gameplay goes. So this is pretty cool. All resistance. This increases your resistance to all types of damage. Your resistance value is translated into a percentage of damage reduction. Force shield, previously known as defense. That's interesting. This is a magical protection that can prevent most types of damage. The force shield is represented by a filter above your health gauge. Wait, I don't really see a filter. Oh yeah, okay. No, the filter is actually on top of the health gauge. That makes sense. And each attack sustained by your character diminishes this gauge instead of your health. When you're not hit by enemies for a few seconds, your force shield regenerates. However, some dots and piercing attacks from creatures will ignore force shield protection by default. It can be improved through the passive skill tree with specific nodes. Health. These are health points. This is the last chance your character has to avoid death, which is pretty straightforward. And blocking, you block any direct damage with a shield or with an appropriate passive skill tree node, allowing you to block with your weapons. You will then have 2 important values regarding blocking: n percent chances to block an attack and n percent damage absorbed by blocking. When you block an attack, its damage is reduced by the percentage damage absorbed by blocking. If you don't block an attack, only your resistance value will intervene to reduce the damage you receive. If you're hit for 100 points with an 80% damage block shield, your character will take 20 damage. If you have a resistance that applies, your damage will be reduced after blocking and you will take less damage. Life Leech. Life Leech will also be possible. It can be found on items, and different Life Leech options are also provided in various passive skill tree sections. It will offer another way to survive in Wolcen. as far as the type of character that I'm going to be going toward in Wolcen, it's going to be more. It's going to be definitely more toward the rogue type of character. So life leech is probably definitely something that I'm going to be focusing on uh, once the beta comes along further and is available to us, and especially once the game is actually released. So I'm glad they didn't do anything with Life Leech as far as like removing it from the game or anything. Whether or not they decide to change it further will be interesting to uh, see. Attributes revamp. We want attributes to be useful for more builds and avoid a one attribute per playstyle system, which is very smart and ambitious of them because in a lot of games that are RPG in nature with any kind of stat system, you pretty much always end up running into an issue where there's just one stat that's the best stat, and that's just it. Just like dump all of your stat points into that one stat for forever, basically. So I like where they're going with this. Whether or not they can make it super unique will be interesting to see. We want to reinforce the class-free direction and give players a real possibility to choose, while still offering the possibility to build straightforward archetypes. In this attribute revamp, we remove the gauge mentioning the attribute efficiency, weak, average, excellent, etc. That was actually in the alpha. This tends to be frustrating for players and remove the call for choices. Very well said. There are still 4 attributes in Wolcen: ferocity, agility, wisdom, and toughness, but with the beta transition, each will have interesting bonuses for different kinds of builds. Here's the list of attributes and their respective 2 bonuses. Ferocity, critical chances, and health points regeneration. Agility is global speed and dodge. Wisdom will be ailment chances and ailment resistance. Toughness will be health points and all resistance. Your 3 higher attributes, no matter what they are, will also gain damage bonuses for all types of damage distributed this way. Values still subject to change. So your main is 1/4%. Your second is 1/10%, and your third is 1/5. Well, no, that's not right. Okay, main is 0.25%, second is 0.10%, and third is 0.05% per point. This will allow toughness to be a valuable attribute as well. Finally, we will revamp the character sheet to improve readability for everyone, especially for theory crafting use. And that's it for the attributes and defense stats and the potion revamps. So yeah, pretty cool stuff in general. I'm already theory crafting a little bit as far as how I'm going to build my character, depending on whether or not they do any more changes, of course, but I will probably mostly go with be making a roguelike character, so probably ferocity, agility, and then toughness, and then maybe a little bit of wisdom, depending on how the game goes and how crazy monsters get further into the game. So yeah, that's it for that. So I'm gonna go move on to the next piece of news, which is the active skills tree revamp, which is I believe the most recent major project that they're working on development wise. Previously in the alpha with the active skills tree, when you would select a skill or ability, there would only be two paths as far as upgrading the skill. You could either pick the left path, which was more uh, utility sorts of upgrades, and then the right path, which was usually more damage, and that was it. Like, you could, depending on the level of the ability, you could deviate between the left and right paths. So you could go like utility, damage, or something like that if you wanted to. But even then, it was still a little, um, like choice-wise, it was still kind of narrow. There wasn't a whole lot of potential uniqueness that you could do with that system. So basically what they're going to be doing is they're going to be adding skill modifiers to your abilities, which is basically that system that I mentioned before but expanded. So you're going to have more options essentially as a whole. So looks to comparing this, it looks like you're going to have two different choices every X amount of ability levels, which is pretty cool. And then you're going to have modifier points, and then however many modifier points you have is however many skill modifiers you can actually get. So theoretically, I'm assuming if you got an ability up to a high enough level, you could actually get all of the skill modifiers, which would be like crazy, probably crazy strong. Although I imagine with this system, maybe mixing some modifiers with others would actually be detrimental, but I'm not entirely sure, honestly, as far as that goes. But it is a very interesting system overall. It makes upgrading your abilities much more unique rather than the very linear upgrade path that active skill tree upgrades took previously in the alpha. So I'm pretty excited with this as well, just because it expands the whole active ability portfolio per se. Lets you do more unique things with your abilities rather than just either adding more utility or adding more damage, basically. So, and these skill modifiers will definitely be more broad as far as just either adding utility or damage. I'm sure there's going to be other effects that these skill modifiers can add, like changing an ability's characteristics as far as how it actually functions, like how the attack functions itself. It could even be things like adding extra damage in special situations, or possibly adding like damage over time modifiers and things like that. So it is pretty goddamn neat. And then this is actually the YouTube video that they did on the active skill tree revamp. I'm not going to play the video, but I will leave a link for you guys in the description so that you can watch it. I will say the video itself is very cool. They do a great job of both kind of explaining where they're going with this active skill tree revamp, as well as actually giving you a proper display of what the skill modifiers can do as far as changing an ability. So if you guys were like wanting to theory craft, or just like, see what the changes are in more depth rather than me just talking about it, you should definitely go ahead and check this video out. Yeah, that's pretty much about it for the more recent Wolcen news. If you guys, as always, like this video, feel free to poke the like button. Feel free to poke the notification bell so that you actually do know when I upload. I actually highly recommend that because, like I said, I'm not going to be trying to stick myself to a particular uploading schedule anymore. So, uh, if you were curious about anything, wanted to talk about anything Wolcen related on this video or in general, feel free to leave a comment. If you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe if you want to. Um, so you can, like, you know, follow me and some shiat for when I do videos. And if you also want to, feel free to share this video with friends or, you know, anybody that you really want to, perhaps fellow peeps that you know that also are interested in Wolcen. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.